Hey guys, how's it going? TheHaggardNerd here with a cider making Q&A video. You guys have been asking questions about cider making, so I'm making some videos to answer your questions. Let's see what you guys are asking. Alright, so for this cider making Q&A video, we have Flavio asking, can you record another video explaining how to bottle the cider and how to carbonate it with a second fermentation? In response to this, I actually on the video that this came from, I had mentioned that I'll be making more videos about how to go about carbonating, but I also have to wait for about 2 months for the current batch to finish aging before I can make that video. He then replied saying that he doesn't think he has the patience to wait 2 months for that video to come out, and then really expressed interest in knowing how to both quickly produce cider and let the cider carbonate in a bottle. So I have a few points to go over here concerning this topic. The first point is going to be about aging and patience. So you got to remember, fermentation creates harsh flavors in cider. For me, the most notable thing is a strong heat that will linger in the aftertaste, also known as the finish. You also may get some musty and sulfury flavors in a young cider. So letting a new cider sit for at least 30 days will help these flavors dissipate, and you'll notice the cider becomes much more flavorful since these off flavors will no longer be interfering with the natural flavor of your original juice. Personally, I like to let things sit for a minimum of 2 months before I will serve it to my friends, since that gives plenty of time for any off flavors to dissipate. Generally speaking though, ciders are similar to wines in that the longer you let them sit, the smoother they will become. This being said, it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Are you looking for the quickest turnaround, or are you looking to make a tasty cider? In my experience, it's always a trade-off. Time for flavor. You can either drink quicker and have a more hooch-like cider, or you can let it age and gain complexity and smoothness. In my opinion, bottle conditioning and producing cider quickly doesn't really work well together. The quickest way to go from fermentation to drinkable is to either serve a cider that hasn't fully finished fermenting, which will taste gross, or to let the cider finish fermenting and then force carbonate it in a keg. If you're not worried about aging, I would only assume that you'd have to wait at least double the length of your primary fermentation period for bottle carbonation, since you effectively have to wait for the fermentation process to finish again. So point 2 of this video, I've already mentioned it before, but I want to kind of go into more detail concerning bottle conditioning. So personally, I do not bottle condition. All my aging is done in carboys, and I force carbonate in kegs so that each batch can be kept together and the final product can be consistent. But to answer the question, bottle conditioning is allowing your yeast to ferment further, either by bottling before your primary fermentation has completed or by adding some additional fermentable sugars right before you bottle. This will give you the yeast additional food to work with and will up your ABV a bit to create CO2 in the process. However, there are many reasons why I avoid bottle carbonation. It can be dangerous. If you aren't super careful, you can get bottle bombs. This can happen if you add too much sugars back in and the CO2 becomes so great that the bottle pops, sending glass and cider everywhere. This can also happen if you are very, very critical and you put the exact amount of priming sugars but manage to forget to check the residual sweetness left in the original primary fermentation if it hadn't fully completed. That'll also create too much CO2 and pop your bottles, which can be dangerous. Additionally, keep in mind that the process of fermentation can create off flavors. If you bottle carbonate, you're basically locking in whatever bad flavors are created by fermentation in your cider. At that point, you'd absolutely want to let the cider sit for at least a few months to help let that cider mellow out. I had mentioned maybe bottle carving would be an interesting experience, but I've since read up on the process, and now I'm not too comfortable with risking my glassware or my cider quality, so I'll not be bottle carving anything from batch 50. Maybe we'll try bottle carving in the future, but not currently. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps up this video. Please keep in mind that this is all my personal take on everything. I'm not a pro, but I'm only sharing what I know to be true and basing everything on my process that I've developed so far over the past 50 batches. If you're watching this and would like to add to the conversation, or if I was wrong about something, I'd love to hear from you. That way we learn together. If you guys have any questions, comments, corrections, or anything at all to share, make sure you leave them down in the comments below, and I'll be making more of these Q&A videos based on the feedback I get. So thanks to you, Flavio, for the questions and comments. And guys, as always, thanks for watching. Take care.